Perfect. So, hi, Pete Quinnell.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
Hi. I am doing okay. I'm a little bit tired. I'm still trying to catch up on sleep from Elimination Chamber. Not to date this episode whenever that's going out, but still trying to catch up on sleep from the live reactions and stuff. But I'm doing okay.
It's okay. It's nice to see you without makeup. Not that your makeup looked bad, but
I look terrible, actually. I'm genuinely stunned at the amount of people that said it looked good because I think they're lying.
to be fair, I think the Jeff Hardy makeup kind of looks bad to begin with. You know,
Yeah, like yeah, yeah.
I've never been a huge fan of his full face makeup. I like face makeup, like when Sting
hmm
used to do it or whatever. I think it's fun. Goldust, perfect. Dustin,
hmm
perfect at it. His just always looked weird to me. I don't know why.
It just seems like messy more than anything. I don't know. Like sometimes really gets like this cool look going on, but most of the time I'm just like, it's fine. It's just some colors.
Right, exactly. And he's a
Yeah.
colorful person. And you know what, Pete? I think I've been hearing a rumor he likes to have fun. That's what I hear.
Don't get me started on the likes to have fun train. God.
Anyways, welcome to That Wrestling Show, which in the vast sea of wrestling shows on YouTube, it's another one. Today our guest is Pete Quinnell. I wanted to start off this interview just by, I feel like where a lot of people got to know you for the first time, or got to know your reaction, I should say. Talk to me about the phone call. I remember Ollie called you on the phone, telling you
hmm
you got the job, and it sort
hmm
of made everyone sentimental towards you because that's like the Christmas story moment, right? And not everyone gets to
Yeah.
experience that. So talk me through that.
Yeah. That was a time. So basically the way it worked, because the whole timeline of me working at Wrestletalk was kind of crazy.
Sure.
In that the previous year, so that would have been like August of the previous year, so 2018. I
What is time
what is
anymore?
time? My time has been completely messed up. Um, I think August 2018, I started writing for WrestleTalk.com. And that was literally just because I watched a WrestleTalk news video. And as part of it, Ollie just said, hey, if anyone wants to write for the website, we're looking for writers, email this address. And I said, why not? Let's give it a go. It'll be fun. Why the hell not? So we emailed in and they said, hey, yeah, do you want to write for the website? I was like, that's cool. Let's do it. Why the hell not? Then in that September, literally a month later, I became an editor for the website, and I was like, that was quick. Oh God, what's happening? Um, and then I was still an editor for the website through like that Christmas. Going into like January, February time, I got a call from Andy Datson, who'd obviously been working on the website. I believe he's already appeared on this show.
Yeah,
That
he
wrestling
did.
show's very own Andy Datson.
That wrestling show. Yeah, we like to take credit for him. Without
hmm
without us, he wouldn't be where he is. And
Exactly. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
hundreds
But
of views. Go ahead.
I got a call off him because I'd spoken to him a little bit through working for the website and stuff, because he was obviously one of the editors in chief of the website at the time and stuff. So I'd been getting to know him through that. He called me and he said, "Hey, didn't you used to have like a gaming YouTube channel?" I was like, "Uh-huh." He's like, do you want to send some links over to some of the guys, because they're actually going to be working on this new project? Just keep it quiet for now, but they're going to be launching a second channel. It's going to be about like gaming and movies and stuff, and you might be fit for that. And I was like, okay. So I had to email over some of my old YouTube links on a YouTube channel I had way back in the day, like 2016 time. And in fact, 2016 I think was the last year I did. It was more like 2014 to 2016 kind of time. And yeah, just sent over some old links, but hey, this is kind of what I used to do. It's very outdated now. Don't judge it too hard. But that's kind of what I used to do. I used to stream on Twitch. I used to stream on Twitch like as a job, quote unquote, for a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah. Basically because I left my other job and was just doing Twitch by default for a little bit before I got another one. But
You made time for it, and honestly,
mhm.
it got you where you're at, so it worked out, right?
Yeah, exactly. It was worth it in the long run. But yeah, sent over some video clips of them, and they're like, "Oh, hey, you're really good. You're exactly what we're looking for. Do you want to come down to London and do a screen test?" And I was like, "Oh God," because obviously at the time I was just a fan of WrestleTalk. I was just a guy who watched their videos. I was just a dude, you know. And not saying that I'm not just a dude now. That sounded weird.
Well, no, but now you're a dude with Wrestletalk.
Yeah, but I never like to be like, you know, before I was just a fan and now I'm all important Mr. WrestleTalk man, because that's super weird.
It wouldn't be the first time someone on the internet has had a superiority complex, Pete. It's okay if you want to admit it. I will not. I promise you, if you want to admit it now, I will not put it in the title of the video.
You won't put it in the title,
No,
okay?
No, of course not.
I might have no, I'm kidding. Yeah, so they called me down for a screen test, and at the time, I was living at the other end of the country, which, granted, it's the UK, it's not the biggest country in the world. However, it's still a fair old distance to get down there. But I was like, sure, I'll get some time off work, and I will come down for a screen test. Why not? Let's give it a go. Went down, did a screen test, had to write like a little mock script and presented that on the green screen and stuff. First time I was ever doing any sort of presenting on a green screen or anything like that, using a prompter. Like, oh my God, all these new skills. So yeah, just did that for them, and they were like, yeah, you're great. But we don't want to hire you just yet, because, you know, just in case, you know, it might be a little thing, you know, you might have the skills and all that stuff, but if you don't like gel with the team, it wouldn't quite be, you know, the right fit or anything. So we'll have like a little trial period. We'll work. And this was the real hard bit, was I had to work 2 days a week down in London. And then I had to work the other 5 days up at the other end of the country. And I didn't have all that much money at the time, so I couldn't get like trains and things because they were very expensive. So I had to get a bus, which was like an overnight type deal going down. It was rough. I was staying on my friend's couch who lived in London. Stayed on his couch while I was down here for the 2 days, and then was getting an overnight bus back, getting back to Newcastle, which is roughly where I was living at the time, and then going straight to work immediately afterwards on like no sleep. I did that for about 2 months. Well, 3 months technically, but sure. Did it for 2 months until April, which is it was the night after WrestleMania 35 was when they did the call live on stream. Because Ollie had texted me earlier that day and just said, "Oh, by the way, I just want to give you a call about something after the WrestleMania review stream. If you can just make sure you're awake for it." I was like, "Yeah, sure, no worries." Because they were doing a really late review because they were doing Raw live reactions that night, I think, something like that. So he said, "Yeah, just make sure you're awake later because I want to ask you something after the WrestleMania review." And I was like, "Yeah, sure, no worries." So he gave me a call, and obviously the rest was live on air. And just said, "Oh, by the way, you're on air." I was like, "What's happening?" And like, back of my head, I was like, Is it? Can't be. Surely not." Because he initially said, we'll have you at least for 3 months and see how it goes. Just doing like the 2 days a week thing, at least 3 months. And it had only been 2. And I was like, so there's no way that the timelines don't match up. This can't be anything, right? And then, yeah, they just said, "Hey, we want to bring you on full time." And I was like, yeah, that was, I'm not really a strong believer in like big turning points in people's lives and stuff. I always believe stuff is much more of a gradual build. But that for me was the strongest thing I've come to a turning point in like my life as a whole. It's crazy. And then a month later, moved down to London, and yeah, been working full time since. Completely uprooted my life and just moved down. It's crazy.
No, it is absolutely insane. I love the idea that you were a fan of them at one point, right? And now they're just the boys.
Yeah.
Is that something that's kind of hard to wrap your head around sometimes?
Yeah, it is a little bit because, you know, more often than not, they are just the boys. You know, we even in lockdown and things, we still have regular meetings over Zoom and stuff like that. So we're still like chatting to each other, cracking jokes, you know, just being a team.
Yeah.
There's the occasional moment where I'm like, how am I here? Goodness me. Like there was one that I remember, which was not the Christmas just gone, Christmas before, so Christmas 2019. we went out for the work Christmas party. Went out, had lots of drinks, and did some karaoke. And there was just a minute in there.
The one where Andy did the Eminem song.
I believe that was me actually
that
did the Eminem song. Yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you very much. Don't take my Eminem rapping cred away from me. Thank you very much.
Never. I don't want to diss.
But yeah. So I think it must have been that one. I think, or that might have been. Oh, I can't remember because it was either that one or it was shortly after was when we went out with Adam Pompey after he signed with Wrestletalk. Went out after that, so I forget which one it was, but it was one of them.
Sure.
But there was a moment when we were doing the karaoke. I was quite drunk, and I was just kind of sitting there on one of the seats, just listening to some of the other guys doing some songs, and I just kind of looked over and I was like, how am I here? How am I doing karaoke with Ollie and Luke and Laurie and Andy and Louie? And I'm just like, I'm just a dude who used to watch them on YouTube. How did I get here? So yeah, there are a few moments where I'd have to kind of catch myself for a second, but yeah. But they're so nice that they make me feel like one of the boys. So I feel like a boy, you know?
I will say, obviously, from an outsider, everyone who I've ever interacted with from Wrestletalk has always been super approachable. Whether that be through Ollie has given me a chance to edit for Parts Fun Known before. It didn't work out. Nothing, to really go on about it. It just didn't work out. And but he's always been super nice. Any interaction I've ever had with Luke has been super nice. So I can only imagine that is a fully inviting environment. Because everyone just seems, their on-screen personas in terms of their niceties seem to match their actual personalities. So.
Yeah, that's the thing. Because I guess there's one part of the story that I kind of sort of left out when I was doing that was we had Wrestling Media Con was year 2018. So I think it was the day after Wrestling MediaCon was the day that I became an editor for Wrestletalk.com. But when I was because I got offered to go to MediaCon because I've been speaking to Andy and been a writer for the website and stuff for like a month at that point, or just a bit after a month. He was like, hey, we need some extra people to come help out, just like set up stuff at Wrestling MediaCon in Manchester. Do you want to come? I was like, sure. So I actually met Ollie, Luke, and Laurie there. First time meeting them, and they were super duper nice as part of the team. And there was one bit at night, there was obviously some wrestling at the show where I was just sitting next to Ollie for it. And I was like, did you not want to be part of like the cool kids? And just like, because they brought like their girlfriends and stuff and their wives. And I was like, don't you want to just be, why am I with you guys? Shouldn't you be with like your own little group? Why am I here? But they were like super inclusive, just made me feel like part of the team and everything, which was really, really nice because I was just a lowly website writer at the time. It was really refreshing and nice. And I actually told them at the time, I was like, it's genuinely lovely that I've met you being a fan of the channel and you're not a-holes. That's really nice because a lot of people you meet, you have these perceptions of what you think they're going to be like, and they're not like that at all. But these guys really were.
They always say don't meet your heroes. Now I'm not saying Ollie Davis is your hero, but just saying. So
he is a hero to all of us.
Well, of course, Mr. Davis. So there's a lot of different ways I could take that, but one thing you touched on is I would love to know, what did you take from your time being a PokeTuber known as Ryquin?
You even said the name. God damn. All right.
It took me a long time to find that because you don't.
Yep.
What did you take from that in like your presentation style or your editing style or just like your overall approach that you still use today when you're making content for Wrestletalk?
That is a really interesting question. Because that whole channel and side of things I used to do, it wasn't necessarily a spur of the moment thing, but it was very quick behind me just going, what if I made videos? I should make videos. And then like 2 days later, I was making videos. I literally just watched like a random Pokemon YouTube video and I was like, that's fun. What if I did that? And then did it. But the whole kind of mindset behind me doing that the entire time was just constant self-improvement. I was like, okay, this video was rubbish. Why was it rubbish? I hated the way I was talking in it. Okay, why did I hate the way I was talking in it? I didn't talk enough about this thing, and this thing, or, I got completely sidetracked on this little bit. And I would dissect my videos time after time and just be like, what can I improve about it? About me, or the graphics, or, the gameplay, or whatever it may be. I was very adamant to try and do everything myself as well. Like, I never commissioned anyone for anything, or barely ever commissioned anyone for anything, because I was like, all the video editing, all the graphics, everything I want to do myself, and just improve all those skills that I can while I'm doing it. So everything I learned, I pretty much just did. I either YouTube tutorials, or in the case of Photoshop, just pressing stuff and saw what happened and then remembering it for future. That was literally it. So that kind of outlook I still took into Wrestletalk when I first started doing it. Going back and watching some of my early stuff, my early videos on what was Screenstalker, now Parts Unknown, and my early Wrestletalk videos and stuff, was wildly different. People may not notice a drastic change, but going back and watching one of them, I'm like, God, I'm a different person when I'm doing that. Just the entire way I script a video, how I present it and stuff like that has changed completely. And that is literally just through, might sound a bit vain, but watching yourself. You have to watch yourself and critique. It's really important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I sort of back when I first started my gaming channel and fucking you can curse, by the way. I'm not sure if you're
good shit. Cool.
I'm not sure if you're a big cursey boy, but you don't have to watch yourself.
Sweet.
I guess started my channel in 2007, back when YouTube first launched, and it was just a small kid looking at a camera. I like Mario Kart because it's fun. And, right? And
that's wholesome as fuck.
it is, but it's also I sort of cringe when I look back at it.
Of course.
Do you feel like, this may be a little bit of a hard question. I have no idea your education background, but do you feel like sort of the grassroots way that you learn things, or sort of just putting your head against a wall and learning that way of just doing that? Do you feel like that's more impactful to the way you learned, or do you think that someone can learn those skills through going through an actual course or something like that? Or do you think maybe a mixture of both would be best?
That's really tough to say, because my education is not in this realm in the slightest. Not even a little bit. I guess it's vaguely similar, because my degree is actually in coaching and sports science, which is nothing to do with anything that I'm doing really. But yeah, sure. But the closest thing, I guess, is coaching, because you have to be comfortable talking to groups of people. Not necessarily all of them you're going to know. Some people you're going to be meeting for the first time. You have to be quite presentary and confident with what you're saying. So I guess that side of it kind of comes in a little bit, but the vast majority of what I know is stuff that I have just learned by doing it. And for me, that's the way I learn, is by doing stuff and then watching it back and going, I should change these things because they're not very good. And then I'll change them for next time. I don't need the YouTube comment to tell me I suck. Trust me, I already know. Yeah, so it's tough to say, because I don't know what kind of education you could have for a lot of this stuff, because a lot of it, you can have, courses and like I said, YouTube tutorials were really helpful for me for certain things. But in terms of actually presenting and getting confident and stuff, you have to just do it. That's not something you can learn. That comes over time by doing it and doing it again and again and again.
Absolutely. So if I remember correctly, one of the ways that they actually brought you in on Wrestletalk and how you got your name, Chopper Pete Quinnell, is you were a follower of El Door when that as again, master of all the gimmicks, you are. What was it like being introduced in a storyline in Wrestletalk, and not something, because they don't do that for every presenter, like when Adam came along, Adam was just Adam, because Adam is basically the grandfather of fucking wrestling YouTube.
Yeah.
Not at all. Not trying to say he's old or anything, but he repopularized it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. what was that like, and what's like the story process if you're working on something like with that?
What process? No, the the story was very interesting because they basically said when I first got the call of saying we really liked you from the screen test, we'll do the 3-month thing of doing 2 days a week. They said the idea we've had to bring you in is this kind of thing where like Laurie will like clone you. You'll be like with him. You're gonna create this whole like Screen Stalker offshoot and things like that. And it was really quite bemusing because I was like, yeah, no, it all sounds great, all sounds fantastic, should be a good time. Wasn't really thinking properly about it because I was still trying to process the whole I get to be on screen for 2 days a week. That's crazy. But yeah, then they kind of laid out a little bit more. And I you can probably tell if you I can't remember what episodes they are, but if you go back and watch them, I'm just smiling the whole time. It's really bad because I'm supposed to have like a very serious face on and be like, oh yeah, I'm Laurie's clone. But anytime they like looked at me, I was like,
I think I remember somewhere there's just a funny image of you with like a lampshade on, I think, and you just have like this big goofy smile on your face as the camera's panning by you or something. I don't exactly remember, but it's exactly that.
yeah. I think that I can't remember whether the lampshade wasn't me.
Oh, that was.
But I know what you're talking about. But there've been definitely other times where I'm supposed to not be smiling, okay, and I definitely am with various bits. But yeah, it's at first it was very I don't want to say overwhelming. It was just kind of like, what's the word I'm looking for? I just couldn't like process it. I was just like, what? Why am I here? What am I doing?
It's almost it's like imposter syndrome. Like you should.
Oh, 100%, 100%. Yeah.
It's like you shouldn't be where you actually are. I sort of experienced the same thing last year before the pandemic hit. I'm in a band, and we got to open for Drake Bell, who was like on Drake and Josh and things like that, right? No, yeah. He like inspired me to play guitar and other things.
Yeah.
So when I opened for him and I met him backstage and he like enjoyed our music, it was just like, what the fuck is happening?
That's so cool, man.
Yeah, you humble brag, you know.
yeah, of course. No, that's rad.
So really quick, this is completely stolen from Hot Ones, but
okay,
I'd like to show you a picture. And I just want you to tell me the bigger story.
Oh, there we go. Oh god, that's a bloody throwback.
It is. Jesus. It is of you, and it is a picture of you and Jack the Jobber. Back, I believe, from 2016. And I just ask, what was it like meeting Jack? And before then, you weren't, in the wrestling sphere, so you were like approaching him as a fan. So what was that like?
Yeah. That was crazy. So that was back in the What Culture days, and that was me. That was at a WCPW show at the time before it was Defiant. It was the one that was on Adam's birthday. It was the pay-per-view one. It was the stacked fully loaded something or other, something like that.
Honestly, I have no idea. It's been a long while since WCPW has been a thing.
Yeah. But it was the one where they had Eric Bischoff as special guest, like GM or something, and Adam had a segment with him, and he's like, "You're my dad," and Eric's like, "No, I'm not." That was a fun time. I just got tickets to that. It was actually a birthday present. Nice. To go to that because that was up in Newcastle, which is where I was living at the time. So yeah, I got to go to that. I saw Jack there, and I was just a fan of their stuff at What Culture. So yeah, and he was just at the entrance. I was like, "Hey, how's it going? You're cool." Picture ayo. And I didn't say that, funnily enough, not in those words. And he was super nice. I actually met Adam and Jack and Ross and Sam, actually. They were all there
Adam
Pachisi, this is at WrestleMediacon as well, because all the Cultaholic guys were there too. Of course, I wasn't a proper Wrestletalk boy then. I was just a lowly website writer, but they were still very, very nice. Spoke to them briefly and stuff, which was great. Actually, speaking of your editing not working out, I actually applied to be an editor for Cultaholic at one point, but video editor, but that didn't work out either. But again, Sam Driver, super nice guy. Absolutely lovely email response to me. So when I met him at MediaCon, I thanked him for the lovely response to it because it was really, really nice. So, yeah.
So I don't think it would be a stretch to say, given this, that you were a fan of Adam Blampier before he joined WrestleTalk. Like, I don't.
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah.
So, what's that been like, having him join the team and actually working with him specifically?
Again, bemusing. Because shockingly enough, took us a little while to actually figure out the pieces of how to bring Adam back properly and things like that. So, various meetings and things beforehand, met Adam a couple times before anything went down and all that stuff. And it was. I'm still looking for a very specific word for the whole thing, and I can't think of it. But he seemed like a very lovely person whenever we met and stuff like that. And you could tell that, like, initially he didn't feel like one of the boys to start with.
Sure.
He was just kind of getting his toes wet and things like that and just kind of getting back into the YouTube side of things. But it was really cool. And him just coming back and, doing the fantasy booking and doing the list and stuff was all well and good. But it was when we started doing what was No Rolls Barred, now CBW, Parts of Unknown, that was when he kind of came out of his shell a little bit more and became like, he's Adam Blampier again. And I was like, there he is. There's the guy. Yeah. Which was really cool for me personally, having seen, obviously I hadn't met him before, but seen what he'd been doing over on What Culture and stuff. To have good old Adam back, the Adam that I knew back, even though I didn't know him, was really cool.
So something I wanted to ask you about, because I feel like it's only been touched on a little bit, and there's never been like a serious definitive answer in my eyes. What happened with the gentleman named The Friend? That was his gimmick, who was doing the SmackDown reviews with you before Andy. Anytime it's been like brought up, people just say like, "Oh, it didn't work out," and like obviously it didn't, and I understand that that's like the end of the answer. I would just like to know if there is a story behind it, like what happened, because it seemed like the reviews were going okay. People had a good reaction to him, at least initially, which sometimes that's a bit of a toss-up. I remember when Luke first got introduced, people weren't the biggest fan of Luke, and then Lori, and then it just happens. But people seem to be okay with him. What ended up going on with that? If you can talk about it, I understand if you can't.
Yeah, well, I won't say all the details, but it was really bad timing, basically, because he's still one of my closest friends in the world. Dave, love him to bits. And at the time, we were kind of going through a rough period on the channel as a whole, and we were taking a look at like a lot of like inner analytics and stuff and trying to figure out what the issues and stuff were. And it got to a point where the like to dislike ratio became very, very important to a channel success and how we could start to rebuild, because we'd gone through a bit of an influx and stuff.
Sure.
And unfortunately, because it was a new person and YouTube hates new people, initially, everyone goes through the same thing. He never really got a chance to get to warm to the people, especially because he was only on one video a week, or, he was only on like the Saturdays and stuff. He wasn't doing any of the other videos and stuff. So we didn't actually have that long in order to kind of have the fans warm to him a little bit. So yeah, like it just was really poor timing. It didn't work out. And that's just the way it goes, unfortunately.
Is that door still open? Like, do you think there would ever be another opportunity for him to be able to present again with you guys?
I honestly don't know, because that wouldn't be my call.
Sure,
unfortunately,
of course.
Yeah, because if I had it my way, he would obviously still be there because he's one of my closest friends. But that's not my call, unfortunately. So I don't know.
Fair enough. Okay, we have an answer, and I appreciate that. So I don't think it's that far out to say that when you're reviewing SmackDown, there tend to be a lot of comments that say you're critical of the show. Let's just put it that way. Right?
What a diplomatic way to say that. Sure, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, you're a negative dickhead. So
Yeah. That's way more like it. That's way more like it. Yeah.
right. So what I wanted to do is I just wanted to run a few wrestling tropes by you and want to get
Okay.
Quinnell's take on them. How does
Mm-hmm.
that sound? Does that sound okay?
Okay. Hit me with it. Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So this one's very divisive. Some people love it. Some people hate it. What do you think about like overly active crowd chanting? Like, because people always say, "Oh, it's the post WrestleMania show. They're crazy." Do you
Mm-hmm.
ever feel like it's too
Mm-hmm.
much?
It can be. It can be too much. I will say that I will take an overactive crowd versus an underactive crowd.
Sure.
Absolutely, 100%. If they're gonna go crazy and chant wild stuff, I'd much rather they do that than sit on their hands and do nothing the whole show. But yes, it can get too much sometimes. With the thing is, it's like the beach ball argument. It's when they're doing stuff that's not related to what's happening in the ring. That's when it's just like you're just doing stuff for your own enjoyment and not paying attention to the actual entertainment that you've come to see, and that's when it crosses the line for me.
Something that personally I don't like, so I just want to get someone else's opinion on it.
Mm-hmm.
I hate the one finger on the rope spot, where it's just like
Okay.
where it's just somebody laying there, and all of a sudden they just put one finger. It's super small, but it just drives me bonkers. Like, it looks so silly. Please tell me I'm not alone in this.
I don't mind it. I mean, I'd rather they just grab the rope if they're within range to it. Sure.
Just put your limp hand
I
on
think-
it. It looks ridiculous. Like, to have the
Yeah,
dexterity.
I think the one time it worked and worked really well was in the Kevin Owens Chris Jericho match at WrestleMania, because they had the whole painting thing of the KO ruined on the KO the Festival of Friendship, and they had the fingers nearly touching, and he took the finger on the rope. Is that so much I think that works. That one worked. I'd agree on the rest of them though.
It just seems hokey to me. But you know what?
A little bit.
At least there was a storyline reason for that.
Exactly. Yeah.
What do you think of the overuse, in my opinion, of the disqualification to end matches? I feel like, or just non-finishes in WWE.
If you want to get my opinion, check out any Wrestletalk podcast episode. No, I'm kidding. I hate it. I hate it so much. If you can't think of a creative way to end a match, DQ finishes are used as just a crux and just an easy way out of lazy booking. I think they more often than not, they will put themselves in a corner and just say, well, we booked these two people in a match, but we don't want either of them to lose. DQ? It's really boring and lazy, and I really don't like it.
All right, so same subject, different thing. I'm going to throw a couple wrestlers at you that are divisive. I want to get your opinion.
Okay.
Enzo Amore.
That's really tough. I loved him in NXT. Absolutely loved him in NXT. I did not like him on the main roster. I thought he got really grating really quickly on the main roster. I don't know what it is about the main roster. They've some kind of curse that just makes me like all of the rose-tinted glasses that I've got on just completely lift as soon as they're on the main roster. I'm like, actually, he's kind of annoying.
The Miz.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, my official stance, huge Miz mark over here.
Okay.
My wrestling group, we were all doing a watch-along. We were watching Elimination Chamber. I lost my fucking shit when he won the championship. Like, almost everyone else was like, no, this is horrible. Drew lost. And I'm just losing and going, yeah! Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. I don't dislike The Miz as much as some other people do. I think he's a really good mid-card heel. Really, really good. Like, his stuff with the IC title, I mean, everyone talks about it. His stuff with, like, that promo on Talking Smack and that whole trying to make the IC title more prestigious and things like that. That whole run that he had was absolutely brilliant. I think he's a decent wrestler. Really good promo when he's given proper time and proper scripts and not hokey crap that he's been doing for ages. Sure. He can be a very good promo and can make you buy into stuff. He's not a main eventer.
Hard to disagree, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's my opinion on him.
If that's fine. We can disagree on that.
Yeah.
So last one in this category, different company, MJF. I feel like a lot of people feel like he crosses the line sometimes between where like wrestling and reality should be, and part of that I think is super admirable because he's keeping kayfabe alive, brother.
Yeah.
Jim Cornette loves him, which may or may not be a great thing depending on your opinion. But where do you stand on him?
It's tough to say. I love MJF. In terms of actual like TV work, the promos that he cuts and his wrestling, I think he's fantastic. Just as an AEW TV character, he's fantastic. Really, really good. The outside stuff and like going at fans and stuff like that is, I think it's a bit tired at this point. Like everyone knows that's not really you. Like everyone knows you're playing a character, especially if you're on like social media. Like everyone knows you're playing a character when you're on there. Like, I don't see the point in trying to keep kayfabe alive at this point. As a personal thing, I don't understand why wrestlers are not treated like actors. When you watch a movie, you don't go, God, I hate that Chris Evans. He. That's a really bad example because he played Captain America, who's like the most likable person in the world. Let's pick someone else. Man, I really don't like that Tom Hiddleston as Loki. God, he really that Tom Hiddleston, he really annoyed me. No, you're mad at Loki because he's tricking everyone, or in Avengers he's causing world domination and things and bringing aliens to Earth. You're mad at Loki. You're not mad at Tom Hiddleston. I don't understand why people can't get it through their heads that these are actors playing characters on the screen. I don't get why there isn't that same separation.
All right, cool. So those are some hot takes from Pete Quinnell, sort of. I feel like a lot of those things you've already said before, but
possibly.
Okay. Yeah. So before we wrap up, I want to start from the very, very beginning because I don't know if I've ever heard this story before, and I listened to a lot of the podcasts.
Okay.
What made you originally fall in love with wrestling? Was there a specific character or moment where you go, you know what, I'm a wrestling fan now? For me, I remember when I was a really small kid, one of the very first Raws I ever watched was Jeff Hardy versus The Undertaker in a ladder match. Mm-hmm. That story made me just fall in love with wrestling, and I've kept up with it ever since. What about you? Was there a specific match story, whatever the case may be?
Well, it's interesting because I used to watch wrestling when I was a kid. I didn't really. My two older brothers used to watch wrestling, and I happened to be in the room at the same time because I was very, very young. So I kind of had a secondhand kind of passing knowledge of wrestling at the time, and that was peak Attitude Era time stuff. They were super into, Stone Cold and The Rock and Kane and things like that. And I kind of knew of these people. We had action figures around the house and stuff like that. So I knew of the wrestlers. I just didn't watch all that much actual wrestling itself. Apart from Invasion, that's the one show that we had on videotape that I would watch all the time for some reason. And you know what? As a kid, not knowing any context of what WCW was or who any of the wrestlers were, I bloody loved that show. It was great. And then after that, they kind of grew up and grew out of wrestling. And because I was the youngest brother, I had to be really cool. And I had to do what they had to do because what they were doing was really cool, obviously. So I also kind of grew out of wrestling, even though I never really started watching it in the first place. But then I kind of very slowly came back into it when I was at school. My best friend at the time, he started getting back into it a little bit more. And I think he was probably into it more than he cared to admit. But every so often, he would just kind of throw out this odd thing to be like, oh, hey, there's this crazy thing happening in WWE right now. There's, crazy, isn't it? Kind of weird. And then he kind of move on to someone else. And then slowly, more and more, he just bring in more and more of these stories going on. And that was around Shawn Michaels' Undertaker time at WrestleMania.
Oh, man. Those are crazy matches.
Yeah. So he started talking more and more about stuff. And he was like, dude, this crazy match, Shawn Michaels' Undertaker, you got to watch it. And I was like, yeah, I'll watch it. Never did. And then it kind of more and more time passed, and he was like, guys, dude, you've got to watch this stuff. There's this brand new group of people that come in from NXT. They're calling themselves the Nexus.
Oh.
And I was like, maybe I'll check it out, right? Maybe I'll check it out. I didn't check it out until after SummerSlam, right? Now, here's a fun story. Nexus at SummerSlam was actually the thing that got me back into wrestling, okay? Right?
Okay.
Because the only thing out of that feud that I watched was the SummerSlam match. And the only context I had was the video package before SummerSlam. And the video package made it look like the Nexus had been running WWE for months before it came to SummerSlam. And this was the big culmination of the good guys finally taking down the bad guys. And that's a story I could get into. I had no context of the past 5 years of John Cena going crazy over the entire roster. I had no other context on anything. So for me, that was a really good feel-good story for the good guys beating the bad guys after the bad guys had been really cool and dominant in the last few months.
Wouldn't WWE just be so much better if you could never have context?
Right?
Like,
yeah.
That's what they want, everyone. When you're watching SmackDown, they're like, look, if you could just forget about the last 3 weeks, that'd be lovely.
Exactly, because their video packages are so good, and they sometimes tell stories that weren't there in the first place. So if you just watch them and the match, you're probably good.
Yeah, I agree. 100%. All right, Pete. Thank you so much for your time today. That was that wrestling show. Where can people find you if somehow someone ends up stumbling on this that doesn't already know?
Sure. I'm on Wrestletalk, which, it's a small little channel. I don't know if you've heard of it. Just Google Wrestletalk and it'll probably come up. Also, my own personal stuff. I have a Twitter at Pete Quinnell on Twitter, and I also stream on Twitch every so often, twitch.tv/WarcasterPQ, and I have a D&D themed YouTube channel called Warcaster, which you can all check out for more stuff. I stream games on Twitch, by the way. Do like Hades. Been playing loads of Hades lately and Minecraft and things like that. It's great.
Hades is so good. I want to play it.
It's so good. I love it.
I've heard nothing but amazing things. All right, thank you so much for your time, and
of course.
Thank you for watching that wrestling show.